Welcome to CFA. Learn while you sleep, where you can absorb key financial concepts effortlessly. Tonight's session covers CFA Level 1 Economics, an essential topic for anyone looking to master financial markets, investment decisions, and the broader economic landscape. Get comfortable, relax, and let the knowledge sink in as I guide you through fundamental economic principles in a clear and engaging way. Introduction to CFA Level 1 Economics. This topic covers fundamental economic principles, including microeconomics, macroeconomics, and international trade and finance. A solid understanding of these concepts will help you navigate financial markets and make informed investment decisions. So, let us dive in and make sense of this broad and sometimes tricky subject. Understanding microeconomics. 1. Supply and demand. The foundation of markets. One of the most fundamental concepts in economics is supply and demand. Picture a market where buyers and sellers interact. When the price of a product falls, people tend to buy more of it, and when the price rises, they buy less. This is known as the law of demand. On the other hand, when prices increase, businesses want to produce and sell more, and when prices drop, they reduce production. This is the law of supply. The point where supply meets demand is called the equilibrium price. At this price, the amount that sellers want to sell matches what buyers want to buy. However, external factors like income levels, tastes, expectations, and even government policies can shift these curves, causing changes in prices and availability of goods. 2. Elasticity. How sensitive are consumers and producers? Elasticity measures how much demand or supply reacts to price changes. If a small change in price leads to a big change in quantity demanded, then demand is considered elastic. This is often the case with luxury goods. But if a price increase does not significantly reduce demand, the good is inelastic, which is common for necessities like fuel or medicine. We also look at income elasticity, which tells us how demand changes with income levels. Normal goods see an increase in demand as incomes rise, while inferior goods see a decrease as people shift to higher quality options. Then there is cross-price elasticity, which tells us whether products are substitutes or complements. If the price of one product goes up and demand for another product increases, they are substitutes like tea and coffee. If demand falls, they are complements like cars and gasoline. 3. Market structures. How competitive are markets? Markets do not all function in the same way. Some are highly competitive with many sellers, while others are dominated by a few players. Perfect competition exists when many small firms sell identical products. No one has pricing power, and competition is fierce. Think of fruit vendors in a busy marketplace. Monopolistic competition happens when many firms sell slightly different products. They have some control over pricing, like clothing brands offering unique styles. Oligopoly describes a market controlled by a few large firms. Their decisions impact each other, like in the airline or telecom industries. Monopoly exists when one firm dominates the entire market, like a public utility provider. Without competition, they set the price, though governments often regulate them. 4. Market failures and the role of government. Markets are not perfect. Sometimes they fail, leading to inefficiencies. For example, public goods, like national defense and street lighting, are not provided efficiently by private markets because people cannot be excluded from using them. Externalities occur when economic activities create unintended side effects. Pollution is a negative externality, while vaccinations are a positive one. Governments use taxes, subsidies, and regulations to correct these failures. Asymmetric information happens when one party has more information than another, leading to poor decision-making, like in used car sales where buyers may not know the true condition of the vehicle. Macroeconomics, the bigger picture. 1. GDP and economic growth. Gross domestic product, or GDP, measures the total value of goods and services produced in an economy over a period. Nominal GDP is measured using current prices, while real GDP adjusts for inflation. giving a clearer picture of actual growth. Economic growth happens when GDP increases, often driven by an expanding workforce, capital investment, and technological advancements. 2. Inflation and unemployment. Inflation is the rise in overall price levels, and it is measured using indices like the Consumer Price Index. It can be caused by high demand, which is called demand pull inflation, or by rising costs, known as cost push inflation. Unemployment comes in different forms. Frictional unemployment happens when people switch jobs. Structural unemployment occurs when there is a mismatch between workers' skills and available jobs. Cyclical unemployment rises during economic downturns when businesses cut jobs. 3. Fiscal and monetary policy. How governments and central banks intervene. Governments use fiscal policy to influence the economy through spending and taxation. If the economy is slowing down, they might increase spending or cut taxes to boost activity. This is called expansionary fiscal policy. If inflation is too high, they might reduce spending or increase taxes, which is contractionary fiscal policy. Central banks, like the Federal Reserve, use monetary policy to control money supply and interest rates. Lower interest rates encourage borrowing and spending, while higher rates slow inflation by discouraging borrowing. The Phillips curve shows the relationship between inflation and unemployment, suggesting that when unemployment is low, inflation tends to be higher. However, this relationship does not always hold in the long run. 4. The business cycle. Economic ups and downs. The economy moves in cycles. During expansion, GDP grows, jobs are plentiful, and confidence is high. At the peak, growth slows, often leading to contraction, where GDP shrinks, unemployment rises, and businesses struggle. The trough is the lowest point before recovery begins. Understanding these cycles helps investors and policymakers make informed decisions. International economics. Trade and currencies. 1. Exchange rates and currency movements. Currencies fluctuate based on supply and demand. Some countries let markets determine exchange rates, known as floating exchange rates. Others fix their currency value to another currency, like the US dollar. The purchasing power parity theory suggests that exchange rates should adjust so that identical goods cost the same across countries. Meanwhile, interest rate parity suggests that differences in interest rates will lead to currency movements as investors seek higher returns. 2. Balance of payments. Tracking economic transactions. A country's current account tracks trade, income, and transfers. A surplus means a country exports more than it imports, while a deficit means the opposite. The capital account tracks capital transfers, and the financial account records investment flows. Persistent deficits can weaken a currency, while surpluses can strengthen it. 3. Trade policies. Free trade versus protectionism. Some countries promote free trade, while others use protectionist policies to shield local industries. Tariffs are taxes on imports, making them more expensive. Quotas limit how much of a good can be imported. Subsidies help domestic businesses compete by lowering their costs. Trade agreements, like NAFTA or the EU, promote cross-border trade by reducing restrictions. Final thoughts. CFA Level 1 Economics gives you the tools to understand how economies function, how governments influence markets, and how international trade affects financial decisions. Mastering these concepts will help you develop a strong analytical approach to investment analysis and economic forecasting.